St John the Baptist at Allington is on the A338, about 6 or 7 miles northeast of Salisbury, and is in the care of the Friends of Friendless Churches. The church we see today is not the original one. If we go round to the north side, we see a hint of tantalising Norman decoration which suggests that there was a church here previously. And if we go into the church itself, we will find this painting hanging on the wall dated from about 1805, which suggests the church looked rather different than it does today. The original chancel dates from about the 12th century. This was then rebuilt in the 13th century, and the tower is from the 14th century. According to plans submitted by F.R. Fisher of Salisbury in 1847, the church was due for a rebuild. This work was done under the auspices of William Gray, who was the curate at the time. He reproduced all the detailing that we see today from the original fabric, except for the tower where the timber belfry was replaced by masonry. Inside, the church is largely plain, with a striking exception of the chancel. The first thing that strikes us is more Norman decoration on the imposts of the chancel arch. In 1876, the Reverend Fulwer William Fowle, who was the rector of Allington, died. He was the longest serving rector in Salisbury diocese by some measure, been at Allington for 60 years, having arrived in 1816. Decorative stenciling in the chancel was carried out that same year in his memory by Heaton, Butler and Bain. The font itself is a replica of the original and is from the middle of the 19th century. The font lid may be older, possibly 17th century. The chest is jammed down between the pulpit and the pews. It's probably 17th century, and if we look carefully along the front we can see evidence for several locks. We can't leave Allington without a literary connection and a rather sad love story. This is Cassandra Austen, the elder sister of Jane Austen. Cassandra was engaged to Thomas Fowle, who was the rector of Allington in 1797. Allington was not a wealthy living. In fact, it was one of the poorest in Wiltshire, and it's perhaps not too surprising that Tom decided to go and find his fortune with his cousin, Lord Craven, in the West Indies. Sadly, within the year, Tom was dead from yellow fever. Poor Cassandra was devastated, and it's thought that perhaps this was the reason why she never married, as Tom had been the love of her life. So now we must leave Allington, a lovely little church, beautifully cared for, in rural Wiltshire.